Hey everyone, and welcome to today's video. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more informative content like this. While humans don't have the olfactory ability of dogs to detect diseases, and you know that dogs are often used to detect cancer, diabetes, epilepsy, and more, we'll leave a video at the end explaining all the diseases dogs can detect through smell. Humans also have this ability, although less developed. In this video, we're going to talk about 13 smells. 13 smells that are generally unpleasant that will indicate to us that we are suffering from a disease. As I said, most of them are unpleasant, but in some cases, there's a possibility, as we'll also see, that it's an extremely pleasant smell. In this case, it can even be much more worrying. In any case, I think it's interesting for you to know all of them because, to a greater or lesser extent, reacting sooner or later to the presence of any of these smells will first make you feel more at ease. And secondly, in case it's a problem like the ones I'm going to tell you about, your doctor will be able to find a solution as soon as possible. The first smell we're going to talk about is body odor, but right after showering. You say, look, I've washed with water, I've washed with shampoo, I've washed with gel, I get out of the shower and I have body odor. Well, body odor can be due to a lack of hygiene, but in this case, obviously our body is manifesting a health problem. In most cases, that is not especially serious, but that needs to be treated, such as magnesium deficiency. It's usually the most common cause. There are others, but hey, for starters, if you have body odor right after getting out of the shower, an unpleasant smell that not only you detect, but also the people around you, you're most likely lacking magnesium. Another very characteristic smell that draws quite a bit of attention is having urine with a sweet smell. A sweet smell, not the classic ammonia smell that urine should have. In this case, there can be several causes that explain this smell. Some are basically linked to what you've eaten, for example, asparagus or a lot of garlic, which, well, this has no pathological representation. But it can be indicating, if it's also accompanied by some itching in the urogenital area, a urinary tract infection. A urinary tract infection is important to treat as soon as possible because urinary tract infections tend to go up from the distal area where they are, be it ureters, urethra, and so on, to higher areas like the kidney, etc. If you notice that after, for example, exercising, you have a smell of your sweat that's more rancid, much stronger than what would be the usual smell that you already recognize because it's not the first time you sweat, then the first thing we should start thinking about is that we have some problem with the digestion of food. Something is causing our stomach not to work well, and therefore, well, a checkup can be, for example, gastritis, some beginning of an ulcer, something that alters the usual digestion, and that therefore makes the sweat have this more rancid smell. Then we have the smell associated with excessive sweating of the feet. Excessive sweating of the feet can be normal, especially in summer. If you also have to go dressed in a suit and jacket and wear socks, well, it will be exacerbated. Well, it's a relatively normal phenomenon known as hyperhidrosis, where there are sweat glands, heat passes, and the foot sweats. The problem is that if that sweat starts to have a very strong smell, like a very spicy smell, this is starting to indicate that we have a fungal infection in the feet, a presence of fungi. The famous athlete's foot. Here, it's very convenient that you start at least by getting a cream based on ketoconazole or another antifungal from a pharmacy, which, applied to the surface where you notice that smell, starts to decrease the excess population of fungi present. If this doesn't solve the problem, then it would be necessary to go and analyze if you could have a slightly more serious problem. But in general, it's usually a problem associated with the presence of fungi. Another very characteristic smell is that bad breath smell in the mornings. You wake up and notice that you have a very bad smell in your mouth. This can be because you slept with your mouth open and the dryness of the mucous membranes causes that bad smell. But if you don't have the problem of sleeping with your mouth open, well, very normally, the most common thing is that you have some problem, either gingivitis or periodontitis, that is, an inflammation around the dental alveoli. That is, it would be advisable for you to start booking a visit to the dentist because this is very indicative of a dental problem. If, on the other hand, what you have is a very pleasant breath from the moment you wake up and throughout practically the whole day, a breath smell that, hey, it's really not annoying, that it's like fruity, well, this usually indicates that our body itself has an excess production of ketone bodies. It may be that you are doing some type of diet that eliminates a large amount of carbohydrates that one ingests daily. But just in case, go to your doctor, because it can also be indicative that you have a type of especially serious diabetes. And in this case, it would be most convenient to go and examine it and put a pharmacological treatment on it as soon as possible, which are tremendously effective. Continuing with the smells that our mouth gives off, let's now talk about the classic rotten egg smell, very characteristic. This is really one of the smells that people most link to a serious health problem. What is our breath indicating to us when we exhale this rotten egg smell? Well, first of all, that you have celiac disease, that is, an intolerance to gluten, for example. Secondly, and this is especially serious, that you have some problem of cancer in the stomach wall that is incipient or not. This will be determined later by your doctor. But for starters, very possibly also this classic smell of rotten egg, of egg that has been in bad condition for a long time, can be indicative of that type of tumor. And in the best case, if it were not cancer, what your body is clearly telling you is that you most likely have a gastric ulcer, an ulcer in the stomach. Here you will already notice other symptoms such as, for example, very black stools, for example, anemia, etc., because they are usually ulcers that lose blood. In any case, this also requires urgent medical treatment. Another smell, this is a smell that, let's say, is a smell that is centered in the nose, as if we have something inside our nose, as if we smell bad. This is also usually accompanied by a kind of incessant drip, a few drops that fall that also smell tremendously bad. It's an unpleasant smell that I wouldn't know how to define. As the nose is usually connected to the throat and the oral cavity, it's basically telling us that we must have a rotten tooth, a tooth that is already very degenerated, very altered, and that logically that purulent focus causes us to continuously have a smell like rotten at the back of the nose. It's urgent to go to the dentist to extract that dental piece because from a problem of a purulent focus in a tooth, many other types of problems can appear. If you have a bad smell in the wax that comes out of your ear, accompanied by a classic itching, this happens the same in animals. Well, you clearly have an infection in the ear pavilion, an otitis. These otitis need to be treated as soon as possible because they usually start in the external part of the ear, progress towards the middle ear, and can even, if not treated, reach the brain. And here we would have a problem, for example, of vestibular syndrome and so on. It's urgent that, in the face of the persistence of earwax with a very bad smell, earwax doesn't usually smell good habitually, but that smell like very rotten, you go to an ENT as soon as possible to have your ear checked. Then we have the sour smell in the vaginal cavity. That which the woman goes to the bathroom and notices that discharge that always comes out has a very sour smell, like milk that has gone bad after being out of the fridge for a long time. This is indicative of vaginosis. In general, well, this is due to sexual activity that is higher than usual, having met a new partner or whatever, and a new bacterial population has been transmitted to a cavity that, well, hey, has humidity, it's a place that the body's defenses don't reach very well, and an infection has occurred. These infections are usually quite insidious and need to be treated urgently as soon as possible. If the vaginal discharge has a smell like fish, that classic smell that is noticed in fish shops, but an especially strong smell, it's very linked to either a chlamydia infection. And if in addition that vaginal discharge has an unpleasant appearance, like what comes out of the gills of fish, a smell, a more reddish-black color, and also the smell is even more of a strong fish, we would have to start thinking that there may be some type of tumor more at a higher level than that of the uterus. Logically, it is necessary to go urgently to your doctor before this type of smell, because really, the possibility that there is a uterine tumor is very high. Also, if the vaginal smell does not correspond to any of the smells that we have previously mentioned, but it's a strange smell that you say, this smells weird, it's starting to smell bad, but you don't identify it with either a smell or a fishy smell, or anything else, in any case, go to the doctor because another possible cause of bad smell at the vaginal level may be the presence of some foreign body that is, well, what do I know, some condom or something that may have been left in the vaginal cavity and is generating an undesirable process of bacterial proliferation. And finally, let's talk about the smell of feces, especially unpleasant ones. Well, let's see, feces don't have to smell especially good, but when you notice a smell or you've been having days where the smell of your poop is much more unpleasant than usual, that they change color, that sometimes they even appear pale, or that sometimes there may even be a certain presence of blood. Well, here we have to think first of a proliferation of anaerobic bacteria, for example, Clostridium, that you have, for example, lactose intolerance. Then, well, you will see that apart from smelling more, the feces are usually accompanied by the problem with an excessive production of gases. And finally, it is also necessary to rule out the possible presence of colorectal cancer, that is, a cancer in the last section of the intestine. The smells that have been altered for a long time or that alter processes of constipation with processes of diarrhea, very bad smell, etc., etc. Well, to rule out for your peace of mind, you have to go to look for the possible presence of this type of tumors as well. Basically, not to alarm you, but to rule it out, because it is one of the symptoms that are most associated with this type of tumor. Alright, that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. See you in the next one. Take good care of yourselves.